Warning, subject's blood contains dangerously high metallic content. Recommend incineration. That was the first thing Dr. Snarnax Kollar heard before his third eyelid had even fully retracted. The display was flashing bright crimson. His instruments were vibrating like a caffeinated squirrel, and the patient, some barely conscious human ape named Commander Rex Harlan, was busy bleeding all over Medbay Alpha's pristine floors. Snarnax, who considered himself the galaxy's most brilliant surgeon and part-time bioethics lecturer, narrowed his ocular cluster. Iron in the blood. Enough to kill a Graxian hound, corrode a Ventari stomach, and make a Florsk spontaneously combust. And yet, this carbon-based cockroach of a species was still alive, barely, and trying to flirt with the nurse. Nurse Glib, a translucent blob with more brains than most of Snarnax's staff combined, had already slapped away the incineration drone with a wet smack. "Maybe don't barbecue the patient before we confirm he isn't immortal," she muttered. Snarnax waved a scalpel at her, offended. "This is a medical hazard. This much iron would be classified as biological warfare under Section 9 of the Sentient Exposure Act." Glib made a squelching noise that might have been a sigh. Or it's just what humans call having a bloodstream. The human groaned, smirked, then sat up like someone who'd just stubbed their toe instead of taking shrapnel to the chest. "Relax. It's just protein shake season." Snarnax recoiled. This thing had survived an orbital bombing, walked into a level 3 trauma unit, and was now cracking jokes while hemorrhaging iron like a walking blacksmith's forge. "No," he declared, "this is not biology. This is heresy." But the heresy didn't stop there. Within the hour, 2 more alien patients in adjacent wards began showing strange symptoms: violent immune responses, biochemical instability, organ stress. All of them had one thing in common. They'd been in the same blast radius as the human. Snarnax's voice hit emergency pitch as he declared a contamination lockdown. The hospital sealed, entire corridors shut down. And yet, Harlan, the human, was now doing push-ups. "You're leaking," Glib informed him. "Yeah," he grunted, "that's just testosterone." Snarnax stormed back in, waving a tablet. "Your blood is reacting with other species like it's a chemical weapon." Harlan blinked, didn't even flex yet. Meanwhile, Chief Gravex, 7 security head and a bipedal, armor-plated rhino with the emotional range of a bowling ball, stood at the door, arms crossed, watching this play out with what might have been amusement or a minor stroke. The intercom blared. "Medical emergency. Multiple alien patients deteriorating. Suspected biohazard origin. Human presence." Snarnax, foaming with righteous rage, declared humanity a biological anomaly and demanded the patient be quarantined, dissected, or preferably both. Harlan coughed once, spat blood into a cup, and grinned. "No, I'm not a hazard. I'm the upgrade." Glib rolled her eyes. "You're the reason I drink motor oil." As alarms blared and tempers rose, one thing became clear. This wasn't just weird, it was war. Humanity's blood was breaking the galaxy's immune systems, and Snarnax had no idea whether that made them a medical marvel or an extinction-level event. But either way, he was about to find out. Dr. Snarnax Kollar was having what humans might call a meltdown, though in his case it was more of a precision-controlled academic spiral, complete with aggressive data tapping and frequent muttering about the collapse of galactic medicine. 3 alien patients were now crashing, their immune systems overreacting like a paranoid AI during a firmware update. Biochemical chaos, unstable vitals. One poor Slarvian delegate had broken out in lesions that spelled no in 3 dialects. The root cause? Exposure to microscopic traces of human blood. Snarnax stared at the medical logs, jaw twitching. It wasn't contamination, it was interaction. Something about human blood was actively engaging with foreign biology, like it was trying to solve the immune response on behalf of other species. But without permission. Or finesse. Nurse Glib had already figured out more than Snarnax would admit. "You're not dealing with a poison," she said, watching Harlan do curls with a med cart. "You're dealing with a show-off." The data was clear. The iron wasn't toxic on its own. The real problem was the protein complexity. Human blood wasn't a single biological format. It was a biochemical theme park, complete with clashing antigens, over-engineered immune responses, and enough genetic noise to crash half the hospital's AI analyzers. It's like someone stuffed 6 incompatible operating systems into one bloodstream, Snarnax muttered, and then added espresso. At that moment, Harlan, ever the liability, tried to stand up and immediately bled on the floor again. Chief Grelix moved to catch him, accidentally crushing a medical drone in the process. "Oops," he rumbled, "saw floor." Rodriguez, the human diplomat now acting as Harlan's handler/damage control officer, stormed into the medbay waving a datapad. "Your scans are all wrong. This isn't toxic, it's just human. We've evolved multiple blood types for handling iron transport and immune memory." Snarnax sneered. "So you're telling me this entire mess is because your species had the biological foresight of a drunken protein chain?" "No," Rodriguez replied, stone-faced. "We had natural selection and a lot of trial and error. Also, we used to stab each other for fun. Evolution's weird like that." As more alien patients began to deteriorate, the hospital's director, a multi-eyed, extremely ancient being named Varnix, entered the medbay with the kind of calm that only came from centuries of watching civilizations implode. "You are all panicking," Varnix said, "because you don't understand what you're looking at. This isn't a plague, it's a puzzle." Snarnax, chest still heaving from stress, snapped, "It's not a puzzle when your patients are dying on the table." "Then solve it," Varnix said and left. Just like that. Snarnax stood there, vibrating with fury, surrounded by a sweaty soldier doing curls, a nurse blob leaking sarcasm, and a room full of aliens who might die because someone bled too enthusiastically. He had no choice. He had to work with the humans, had to map the proteins, had to accept that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy's greatest surgeon was being outsmarted by what looked like a shaved gorilla with nerve damage. Harlan gave him a thumbs up. "You'll figure it out, Doc. Iron sharpens iron, right?" Snarnax blinked and for a brief moment considered actual incineration, then sighed. "No, not this time." The quarantine ward buzzed with energy, and not the good kind. Monitors were flashing, alarms were pinging like a casino jackpot, and Dr. Snarnax Kollar was elbow-deep in what was now being referred to, unofficially, as the hemoglobin incident. 5 species, 7 critical patients, 1 cocky human bleeding miracle juice, and an arrogant surgeon desperately trying not to admit he'd been wrong about everything. Snarnax's temporary research station looked more like a crime scene. Protein strands, antigen markers, and xenogenetic maps floated midair in a chaotic mess of color-coded madness. The solution, ironically, came from a footnote in Harlan's medical file, something called blood type incompatibility. Apparently, humans used to die from giving each other the wrong kind of blood. Snarnax found this simultaneously horrifying and inspiring. "So your species nearly killed itself because your own blood couldn't agree with itself?" "Yep," Harlan said proudly, sipping what he claimed was electrolytes, but smelled like melted battery acid. "And then we figured it out, eventually. Mostly." Snarnax threw his scalpel at the wall. "Of course you did." The fix came in the form of a custom-engineered neutralizing protein, a kind of biochemical disguise that would tell alien immune systems, "Don't freak out, this isn't poison, it's just a very enthusiastic molecule." Rodriguez helped patch the diplomatic protocols, while Nurse Glib distributed the prototype treatments with all the enthusiasm of a tax auditor. Chief Grelix stood by the door in case someone needed to be flattened for science. They administered the first dose to the dying Extari delegate, who had been convulsing moments earlier and now suddenly sat up like someone had just unplugged and replugged them back in. "How do you feel?" Snarnax asked, already prepping for failure. "Like my blood stopped screaming," the Extari said calmly. "Good start," Glib muttered. One by one, the other species responded similarly. The custom proteins worked, neutralizing the reaction, easing the iron overload, and proving what nobody wanted to admit. Human biology wasn't a disaster. It was a cheat code. Varnix, the ancient director, returned just in time to hear the news. He floated past the recovering patients and examined the data. "Congratulations, Dr. Kollar. You've reinvented transfusion compatibility, but with aliens." Snarnax nodded slowly. "It's not just compatibility. It's a medical bridge. These proteins adapt, they memorize, they teach. This could open up shared immunology across species." "And all it took," Glib added, "was one human bleeding on everyone like a leaky pressure valve." The next day, Gravik 7's council ratified a new protocol. Snarnax's project, once considered borderline illegal, was now a model for cross-species emergency treatment. The medical community began referring to the new solution as the Harlan Kollar sequence. Snarnax objected violently to being second in the name. Harlan shrugged and said, "Alphabetical, buddy." Before departing, Harlan left Snarnax a note scrawled in barely legible English. "Thanks for saving everyone. You're almost human now." Scary thought, huh? Snarnax read it 3 times before incinerating it out of spite. That evening, as the last alarms finally went silent, Snarnax stared at the protein sequences one more time, then turned to Glib and sighed. "No," he said. "No more humans. I'm transferring to a plant clinic." Glib laughed. "You'll be back? Plants don't flirt with nurses." "Exactly," Snarnax muttered. "Exactly." If you enjoyed that, congratulations. You've got an excellent taste in weird space stuff. Subscribe now before the algorithm launches us into a black hole of obscurity. Seriously, do it. The aliens are watching.